Hi friends and fellow artists, Phil here, and in this series of sketching tutorials I'm going to be showing you how to draw different places, different environments nice and quickly. Well, relatively quickly. You might think I'm a bit slow, but the aim is to do each of the following sketches in 15 minutes or less. And although we're going to be working from reference photographs and probably in an indoor setting, a studio environment, this is great practice for urban sketching, because when you're sketching outdoors you often don't have a lot of time. Changing environments, changing weather conditions, maybe just a nosy passerby that you're trying to avoid. There are 5 parts to this series, best to follow them in order if you can do. 5 very different places. In this first tutorial we're going to be sketching a lighthouse and a simple seascape, and I will link to every other part as well in the description below. So you haven't got to go hunting through YouTube for 2 hours just to find part 2. And you'll also find a link to the reference photograph of the lighthouse in that description as well. Now, if you do enjoy sketching, and sometimes, like all of us, you struggle for some ideas and a bit of inspiration, I've created a free guide. It's called 101 Sketchbook Ideas, and that's going to save you, it's designed to save you lots of time scouring the web for suitable reference material that's copyright free. And it's going to give you some inspiration hopefully as well, and some challenges that you can follow at your own pace. Simple challenges like this series of videos. So I'll link to that in the description. It's completely free. Check that out as well. Remember, this series of lessons, like most of the videos that I put on the YouTube channel, are designed for you to follow along with. That's the way that you improve. And besides, it's just a lot more fun, isn't it, than sketching and drawing, rather than just listening to me drone on for 15 minutes. So go grab your pencil, go grab a sheet of paper, and let's make a start. This first scene then is a relatively straightforward sketch, but it does pose a number of potential challenges. So first and foremost, what is the focal point? Well, I think that's obvious. It's got to be this lighthouse. Specifically though, I would say it's the top of the lighthouse and the detailing around the railings and the light itself. So I need to take some care over that area. I also need to take care that I don't draw the lighthouse lopsided. Even though this is a relatively loose and quick sketch, if this lighthouse is leaning to the left or right, it's going to stand out, but for all the wrong reasons. Now, as we move away from the lighthouse, we can get looser and more sketchy and more carefree. And these foreground rocks, for example, they're important compositionally because they stop the viewer's eye from leaving the picture, but we'll be doing them very quickly and very loosely. Now, the target time for this sketch is 12 minutes. Now, you can see that I've drawn a frame on my paper, and I've kept it quite small. So, the bigger that you do your drawing, the longer it's going to take, especially with graphite. If you were doing this in charcoal, with charcoal pencils even, you'd go quite a bit bigger. You could probably do quite twice the size of this. What I suggest is that you make your frame the same size as your reference photograph. That's going to help you draw it out more quickly. It's going to help you get a little bit more accuracy. It's obviously not true to life, if you were drawing outdoors, but it's a very good place to start, especially when you're practicing. What I'll do is I'll create a PDF of all of the reference photographs, the same size as I'm using them, and then that way you can print them out without having to resize them. And then the last point that I should mention is that it is going to take me a bit more time than the target time to sketch out each of these lessons. And that's not me trying to make excuses, that's simply because I'll be stopping and starting quite a bit to commentate on what I'm doing. I'm also going to be drawing in a more structured, more methodical way than what I would do away from the camera. And again, that's to make it easier for you to follow along. Okay, so let's make a start. So the first thing that I'm going to put in is the horizon line. And then from there, I'm going to put the lighthouse in, but like we said at the beginning, I want to avoid it from being lopsided. And one of the ways that I can help myself do that is with a center line. So if I look roughly where a center line would interject the frame of the image, it's going to be somewhere around this region here. I can draw a center line down just roughly for now. And what that allows me to do is to put each side of the lighthouse in, but I can make it more symmetrical by looking at the shape this side and this side. So just looking at the width of the base, it's going to be somewhere around here, and an equal distance the other side, somewhere around there. And I'd say that's roughly the width. And then the top of the lighthouse, that small ball on the top there is going to be somewhere in that region there. And then you can look at the curves on the top of the railings there. And if you're not sure, if you draw your pencil over the top of the line of those curves, that will give you a better indication if you're not sure whether they're concave or convex. So we're looking up on this, so it's going to be concave, convex even. And then this top line. And then the centre, or the top part of the lighthouse, the centre line helps us with that as well. So again, just looking either side of the centre line just to get an equal distance apart, just helps to keep things nice and symmetrical. And then that top line is not quite so curved. You can put that one in. And then base of the lighthouse in there. And then for this area of the base and the rocks here, all I want to put in is a basic shape. So I can just look at the angle, look at the shape that it makes between the horizon line and the sea. And then we'll come on to the base in a second, maybe take a little bit more time over that. And then the bottom line comes out at an angle there, and then up to the shoreline, which is around that shape there. The shoreline itself, you can see how far up the side does it interject. There's going to be somewhere around there. And then these rocks, just very simple blocky shape, doesn't have to be exact at all. And that really is all the drawing that we need to do. We'll put in the, just put in the base, because that's got a little bit more, being man-made, it's got a little bit more intricacy to it. So I'm just looking at the angles. Got that one, which is in the light, the front. There we go. And that will do for the drawing. So we can get rid of that centre line. And then sticking with the HB pencil, I'm going to start to put some shading on this side of the lighthouse. So the reason I'm starting with the lighthouse is because it's the focal point. We can spend disproportionately more time on this than on the rest of the drawing. So vertical strokes, you can do them diagonal if you want to. It's a style choice more than anything else. I'm looking at the pattern of the shadow. Anytime you see shadows, you should always get shadows in, whether the drawing is quick and sketchy or whether it's more deliberate. Shadows are your best friend. Okay, and then a bit of cross-hatching on the darker side of the lighthouse. And then a little bit of cross-hatching just to soften the edge of the shadow. And because this side is in the light, I'm going to erase that line there. I don't want that to be outlined. And then for the darkest areas up here, I'm going to switch to a 2B pencil, a 3B, something like that. Something that will give you those darker values. And this is where you can start to get really bold now. So I'm taking more time and more care over this part of the drawing than I will do on any other part of it. So this centerpiece here is dark, but if you notice it's darker on the right hand side, the light is coming from the left. So more pressure and then less pressure as you get to the left hand side. It's quite a dark shape, but this top bit is not as dark a value as other areas. So this side is darker, just some hatching on there, a little bit lighter that side. Mini sphere on the top. For the window, it is just a shape, but when you come to fill this window in, instead of just filling it in as one solid block, you just do it darker on one side, so I'm doing it dark on the right hand side, and then just leave the left hand side blank. So again, it's that idea of giving the viewer some information, but not giving them everything. Now the shadows on this obviously need to be brought up, so you can do a bit of hatching under there. Directional marks are up to you. Again, that's a stylistic choice. This is the 2B pencil, don't forget, but you really could use any reasonably soft pencil. Okay, then moving on from the lighthouse, let's just get this base in. So we've spent most of our time on the lighthouse. We want to spend a little bit less time now on the surrounding areas, but still, you know, we're not being too carefree. I'm going to get that shadow in there. And then this is too big an area here, so let me just put the bottom of the lighthouse in. This is going to be more up here. That's okay. You can adjust as you're going along. And this side is in shadow, so I'm going to switch strokes now, do vertical strokes, for no other reason than varying the textures and the direction of your marks throughout a sketch adds interest. It doesn't take any extra time, but it does add extra interest. So this side here is lighter, isn't it? It's more into the light. Reduce the pressure there. I'm not going to put any of the brickwork in. I think that's too much detail for a sketch like this. All I want to look at is the overall value, so the overall darkness or lightness of a particular area. Underneath here is a nice shadow, so again, anytime you get shadows, put them in. Shadows are your best friend. So as we move away from the lighthouse, we want to get less detailed, so we can get a little bit more sketchy. I'm just going to give an impression at the top of those rocks there. And this is a repeating pattern, wasn't it? So we can maybe put one or two of the rocks in with a bit more detail. So all I'm doing here is I'm just looking for the patterns of light and dark and just roughly representing those. The shadow that goes up onto there. And then I've got this area down here that's really dark at the bottom of the shoreline. You can see I'm getting quicker now with the marks, looser, more haphazard. For the beachfront itself, I'm just going to leave that the white of the paper, so I'm not going to attempt to put any texture in. Like I say, we're getting further away from the focal point, so it doesn't really need it in my opinion. And it is quite, you know, a detailed texture. It would be quite time consuming. The foreground rocks then, I'm going to go to a 4 or maybe a 5B pencil, and we're going to put these in really quickly. So all I'm looking for are dark values, and this again is just a compositional device to help frame the picture, keep the viewer's eye within the picture, stop it from wandering out. So I don't need to worry about any kind of detail. It's just more a mass of different values and tones. And while you've got the 4 or 5B pencil in your hand, have a look at your focal point. Do the darks need to be strengthened? So at the minute, these are the strongest darks, and I want around here to be stronger. So on the lighthouse, I'm going to bring up the value around this top part. So this is the 5B pencil or 4B pencil. Just bringing up the values here, bringing the emphasis back onto where it should be. A bit in the window, maybe a little bit of a stronger value there. A few little bits of detail, so you've got this mast on the top here, and these rings here, I think they add a nice little touch to it. You don't have to get the same number in. Darker in the shadow side, lighter obviously in the light side. Again, run your pencil over them if you're not sure which way they're curving. Hit and miss lines as well, so I'm not just drawing solid rings, you know, which would look too contrived, and certainly in the context of this image wouldn't look right. And then let's put in a little bit of tone for the sea, and then we'll come on to the sky at the end. So this is back to, I've got a 2B pencil here. You could use a HB, again, it really doesn't matter. We're going to use the side of the pencil, and I want to make sure that the pencil is kept perfectly horizontal, so horizontal strokes. I'm moving from the elbow, I'm not moving from the wrist because that's going to give me a curve. What this will do is it just helps to establish this side of the lighthouse but without outlining it, which is going to help then emphasize the fact that the light is hitting the right side of the lighthouse. And then we can carry this through to this side into the water here. Again, keeping those strokes horizontal. Can be a little bit more hit and miss here. The waves are bigger, there's bigger gaps between them. You can maybe just increase the value and the tone, the pressure that you're using in places just to give an indication of waves. For the actual reflections themselves, they're just masses of tone and value. So still using the side of the pencil, just looking at the overall shape. Up to the beachfront there. The lighthouse is going to be a mirror image. So this line is sloping this way, the reflection is going to slope this way. Darker on one side than the other. And then kneadable eraser, light side here, mirror image, this angle down here, and just take out a little bit of the graphite, and then just one or two waves just to break that up slightly. Then for the sky, similar kind of idea. So I'm just going to look at drawing these clouds in negatively, and all that means is that I'm going to shade in the areas of blue sky, which is a darker value than the white cloud. I'm going to shade those in, and the space that's left will give me an impression of clouds. So side of the pencil, don't worry at all about being exact with this. Again, helps to frame the lighthouse a little bit more. Lighter towards the horizon. Darker in this top corner to help counterbalance this darkness down here. And then if you really want to, right at the end, chisel edge on your kneadable eraser and just really establish that nice light highlight on the lighthouse. So there's our first sketch, a nice easy one to get you going. Remember to time yourself and to do it 3 times and to try and beat that time with each attempt. When you've done that one and you're happy with it, come back and we'll move on to the next scene.